KwaZulu-Natal is a hive of activity as the life of the late IFP founder, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, is being celebrated. eNCA is on the ground with our reporters Dasen, Thathiah and Lethiwe Mduli, who is in Ulundi. Dasen and Lethiwe, good afternoon to you. Dasen, let's just touch base with you in terms of the number of people that have come out to mourn the life of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi.
Well, certainly you can see in the numbers that many people have taken the time out to come and pay their respects here to a man, as you said, who has a really complex and solid history in this country. I mean, his name will be mentioned in all of the history books that we will be reading for generations to come. It's just a question of for what reasons and which story will be told. But certainly a short while ago, the ANC had brought a delegation in. There was a prayer service that was conducted here at the homestead, and that had just concluded. But there were also other parties that came here to pay their last respects, and that includes Action SA as well. I'm standing now with Zwakele Mngango from Action SA. Mr. Mngango, I think let's just start with what transpired during this prayer service. It was certainly one to watch, considering that we know the history of the ANC and the IFP and then those reconciliation efforts as well. What was your perception from having been part of that prayer ceremony?
I think firstly, as you said, we're here just to pay our respect to the family and the IFP, especially because we respect Mtwana Pindangeni and we know he role he played in our country. But then we found that there was a prayer organized by the ANC, and we appreciate that because it felt good that we can be in a prayer where there is ANC leadership and IFP leadership and ANC members and IFP members. And even when I spoke inside, I did remind them that Mtwana Pindangeni was able to achieve everything he wanted to achieve. But the only thing he said, I failed to come up with reconciliation between the IFP and the ANC. It was always his dream to say, I want to die when I've managed to achieve this last thing I have to do. Unfortunately, he is no more now. He has failed, but I don't believe he failed. Hence I was saying, parties failed him. So ANC and IFP failed him in ensuring that there is reconciliation. So the message as one was sending to them is that now they must sit back and do introspection and say what they can do now moving forward to ensure that there's true reconciliation between two parties, because that's the only thing that Mtwana Pindangeni wanted to achieve while he was alive.
Although there are obviously political differences across the parties, but what role do you think other parties like yourselves have to play in assisting that reconciliation? Because not assisting it is not helpful to the democracy at all, I imagine.
I think firstly, if you look at 1990s violence, where it was predominantly between the IFP and the ANC, the emerging of new parties was actually helpful in terms of dealing with the issue of violence in the province, because having many players in the political spectrum assisted the province to say it can't be only two parties facing each other. There are other role players now playing in this province. So it did help actually, because where we are today, it was because of parties like us who came on board to say now people have choices to vote for other parties. So I think the role also we have to play is that as leaders from all parties, because Ushenge left a legacy for all of us. Now it becomes our responsibility to ensure that in whatever space we find, we try and bring these two parties together, because if they can able to do reconciliation, it then brings stability in this province. Yes, we have moved away from that violence. Now we've got these tensions between parties, which normally intra-party conflict, which normally lead to political killings in the province. However, we do believe that if we can play a role as party leaders in this province and ensure that finally IFP and ANC are able to reconcile, I think we'll make Mtwana Pindangeni happy wherever he is, because as Africans, we believe that our elders don't die. They actually go somewhere to become ancestors. So we believe that he's going to be watching us, all of us, not only the two parties. He will be watching us as parties, because he left some legacy. We must learn from that legacy.
Mr. Mngango, let me leave it here with you. I just want to ask you this question in closing. I mean, we know that everyone has a different view at this point, and it's a really emotive time. not just for the family and the supporters of Prince Buthelezi, but then you also have those who may have lost loved ones during the violence of the 90s. What is your message to his detractors that have come to the fore since his death?
I think firstly one must say we all have bad and good history. No one is perfect, but we are saying as Africans we respect the death. So today, the whole week, we are mourning. We must support it to the family. As Africans, yes, we might have different views, but we are saying people must really think about the family members who have lost their father, their grandfather. And he was not only the father to the Shenge family, he was a father to the nation, to the Zulu monarchy, because he was able to protect our monarchy. We have a monarch respected all over the world because of him. We have got a piece of land. It was protected under Ngonyama Trust because of him. So we see him as our father. So we are saying all those who are posting all these negative things about Ushenge, they are not only provoking the family, they are provoking the entire nation in KwaZulu-Natal and the country, because he's a statesman.
Sokwele Ngango, thank you so much for your time of Action SA there. And as I mentioned earlier, the ANC was here with that delegation. And that really is one of the themes that we're possibly going to see for the rest of the week, and probably beyond that as well. Those two issues, the one of reconciliation between the parties, but also of the violence in the 1990s. And that's also a matter that Dr. Zweli Mkhize touched on. He was here representing the ANC on a national level, and he says that there is certainly still some way to go. Let's listen into what he had to say to our team a short while ago.
He has been a very important figure in the politics of South Africa, whose role we all must acknowledge. The controversy of history, you can never edit or correct. There were controversies at the time, and of course we sat down, can relate to what we went through. We sat down and discussed the issue. Taking from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, it became very clear that a lot of people got embroiled in the violence, but actually at the back of the violence was the apartheid state machinery that was generating all the conflict, and therefore whoever was part of it, but the real engine of it was actually the apartheid third force, as it was ultimately discovered. Then our leaders came together to say, what do we do with that situation? And President Madiba held the first meetings of reconciliation with the IFP. We continued in that legacy. We actually were able to bring up these 10 asides, 5 aside, 3 aside, and we were able to stop the no-go zones. We were able to stop the inciting languages that went out and caused problems. We stopped the problem of violence during elections. All of this we were able to achieve. And in that process, Madiba had said to us, there comes a time when in a conflict you have to understand that there is no side that is completely innocent and the side that is completely wrong. And in our African approach in dealing with reconciliation, we always say, Asbalwa is itumbu. So if people have been fighting and there have been deaths, you don't count what started, when did it start, how many people died and so on. You simply say, let's stop it now, let's make sure we save the rest of the people.
Dasen Thathiah, eNCA reporter, live with us here at Mahlabatini as tributes continue to pour in for the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. Dasen, having spoken to Zwakele Mngwango from Action SA, saying that we all have fallen short of glory because of some atrocities or the other. In this case, that you had raised, and Dasen, that this is not the time, as Mr. Mngwango was saying, in respect of the family during their period of grieving, but nonetheless this is the complex legacy that many have mentioned about the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. Dasen, thank you so much. We cross over to Ulundi now. Lethiwe Mduli is standing by there. Good afternoon again, Lethiwe. Just earlier on, the number of people were gathering and of course the crowd was also growing in the number of people that came in to share and pay their respects for the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi.
Of course, in the end, right now we are in the Ulundi CBD, just basically speaking to residents in this town and getting their reaction to the loss of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. Right now I'm joined by Uputfanake Mthembu. I want to bring him in and hear from him what he has to say about losing Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. Thank you so much for joining us at eNCA. You know, we've been speaking to Abantula Ulundi about losing Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. What does it mean to you? Kushukuthini kuwena ukuhambelwa umuntu omngaka la endaweni?
Ngiqale ngokubingelela South Africa yonke. Ufana kwaMthembu lonikhuluma naye oLundi wakhele isigodi sasenhlungwane emahlabathini. Ngingeza ukugeqa amagula. Ukuhanjelwa umntwana ngingasho ngithi iwili insika kuZulu kwi-South Africa yonke yonkana. Ubuthelezi ukwazile ukwakha iKZN. Sineyingqalasizinda, sinama-Fed College, ama-university, ngaye umntwana waphinda angena. Ngizoqala nje ekutheni la imizi eminingi oLundi iyasicosha isinkwa etafuleni ngomntwana waphinda angene ngoba waqala wakha ama-college, wase kuba khona uphiko lamaphoyisa okuthiwa ipesheli. Emva kwepesheli kwakhona ama-ZP. Ama-ZP ngisho ngithi baningi wobhuti wosisi abasebenza kakhulu besebenzela iKwaZulu Natal. Kwakuse uKZN lapho. Sasingaswele ngisho amanzi yonke into kukhona ingqalasiza zokusebenza. Njengamanje uma sesishiwe uye umntwana waphinda angene sibuhlungu kakhulu ngoba akekho umuntu ongakhali, sonke siyakhala isilile sisodwa.
Mhlambe kungaba imapha amazwi ongawadlulisela kumndeni njengoba belahlekelwe nje?
Emndenini waButhelezi ngithi dudu alwehlanga lungehlanga sonke silahlekelwe iwili insika kuZulu ngoba umntwana besimthanda sonke bengathanda abantu bakwaButhelezi kuphela besithanda iqembu lenkatha. Mina nje ngeqembu lenkatha akekho umuntu akade engitshena ethi awujoyine eNC awujoyine iFF ngoba bengithanda inkatha ngathi ngazalela kwinkatha ezindeni sayo.
Yazi khona abantu abaningi abakhulumayo ngelegacy yakhe ubaba uButhelezi besho ukuthi ayinhle yonke mhlawumbe ungathini wena ngalokho abakhulumayo?
Ngizosho nje lokho ukuthi lokho abakhulumayo yiphutha. Umntwana waButhelezi ukusebenzele thina abantu bakwaZulu njengoba nje sikhona nje seze sangaka sakhula sikhule kuuye umuntu umntwana akaphinda angena akade wafoma iqembu lenkatha Freedom Party kuze kube manje.
Siyabonga kakhulu baba Mthembu. Since I also have more people that want to say something about the legacy of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. But thank you so much for joining us at eNCA. You know, siyakhuluma la ngelegacy ka baba Buthelezi ayishiyile, especially as ama residents ala oLundi nithi nina ngokulahlekelwa.
Soqala ngokubingelela bonke abantu abakhona nabalaleli nabathamele. Igama lami ngulungani ngokabiyela khona oLundi. Sibhlungu kakhulu futhi silimele ngoba umntwana ngoba ehambile because uba umntwana useUlundi lula likhona ngenxa yakhe. Siyakhumbula ukuthi kuye ngaba nendawo yokuthiwa kuyalutha kuyatatshwa kodwa uLundi akaze kutatshwa akaze kwezwe lutho ngenxa yakhe umntwana. Kuthiwa wayengekho ngoba la lutho because kwaba kufika yena kwakhe wakwazi ukukhuluma nabantu bakho uLundi ukuthi abangaluthi ito ngoba sona singadli lutho samlalela sangenza lutho.
Yabonga kakhulu but bakhona nabanye Cindy who more people want to come in and just say a few words after the passing away of umntwana kaphinda angene. But what do you have to say about losing Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi?
Engakusho nje ukuthi kumele celebrate sibungaze impilo yomntwana kwaphinda angene. Obe isibusiso kakhulu ezizweni sonke sase South Africa ikakhulukazi ukwakha isizwe samaZulu. Sifunde elikhulu kuyena singaka nje ngikhule ngaphansi kwemfundiso yakhe. Ngisho euniversity lapho umuntu ebefunda khona befunda ngaphansi kwemiso zakhe. Ukhule sikufundile kuyena iwile inqolobane lishone kimi kithi nakwaZulu kodwa ngeke sigudluke lapha sifundise khona. So hlale simile basifundise kuyena alale ngokuthula umntwana kwaphinda ngene.
Yazi buti la KwaZulu Natal before ngathi nje eminyakeni edlule kwakhona udlame oluningi and abantu abaningi bayasho ukuthi ilegacy yakhe baba uButhelezi ayikho clean all the way through. Mhlambe wena ungathini ngalokho ezumuntu owala oLundi ngoba senikhulume kahle kangaka ngaye? What about le political violence eyayenzeka back in the day?
Ngaleso sikhathi kusulela nje kwezinto zombusazwe ngaleso sikhathi kwakucabana komuntu omnyama nomnyama kwenziwa ngabamhlophe. Ababamhlophe kulelizwe lakithi bathi mabezofika khona bafica umntwana emele ubukhosi ngaphansi kwelate isilo uking uZwelithini owayemelelene nokudliwa komhlaba kwagcina kubonakala ukuthi uZulu endaweni ezinjengalezi zangakithi udlame alifike livikeleke ngoba kuyizizwe zamakhosi lagcine kudlame lwabantu luhlasela kakhulu abantu bakwelakithi abahlala emadolobheni mawungaya nje endaweni efana nendawo zaseGoli kwakuya ngokuthi umZulu umXhosa uyini uma umZulu wawuthathwa njengomuntu oyinkatha kusho ukuthi okulisana nombuso nolisana nokumbuso kwa-ANC uma ubheka nje umntwana mayeqala umntwana waye uphuma ngaphansi kwe-youth league ka-ANC uphuma ngaphansi koholo lika Oliver Tambo ukhulele ngaphansi kwale behlale kusho lokho ukuthi inkatha ikhona nje izimiso eyikholelwa ngaphansi kwemigomo ka-ANC kwaba nje izinxushunxushu ekhona kodwa ke ngokuthi vele mawukuthi kunento engekho kunodlame lisuke lukhona kusuke kuzoba nabaholi abakhonjwa phambili mawuzobheka kuzo zonke lezo zinto mazenzeka uye futhi umntwana uhambile wakhuza zonke lezi zizwe ukuze kube nokuthula
ngiyabonga kakhulu
siyabonga.
Well, Cindy, we'll be getting more and more reactions from residents here in Ulundi as we're stationed in town. We're also going to visit more areas around the townships, just finding out their reactions to losing such a big leader in this area. Earlier on, I spoke to the IFP. Some of those members were also sharing that they've lost a great leader as he was the founder of the IFP, and they're hoping that the new leaders or the leaders that are leading the IFP today will continue on into his legacy.
Lethiwe, thank you so much. And as you were speaking to people on the ground in Ulundi, highlighting the impact that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi had just in their material living conditions, the ability to have a piece of land, which in itself gives you identity, a sense of belonging and dignity as well, provision of basic services and much more, including the educational aspects of having colleges built in KwaZulu-Natal. It's often things that are not spoken about, Lethiwe, but we're finding out from people who appreciate and also laud the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi.
Certainly, Cindy, and most of the people that I've spoken to have mentioned service delivery quite a lot, saying that this area has a lot of they received a lot of upskilling when the IFP was still in power, especially here in Ulundi. They are saying that the legacy that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi is going to leave behind shows by the university that he left behind in Umlazi, because there is a university that he built, and also just the service delivery in this area, especially in the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal. Majority of the municipalities are under the IFP, and they are saying that they're very grateful to him for the services that he brought to these areas as well.
Lethiwe Mduli, eNCA reporter out in Ulundi in KZN, as more and more tributes continue to pour in for the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. Dasen Thathiah also joining us earlier. He is live at Mahlabatini, where many mourners are still coming in to pay their respects to the fallen IFP leader.